Welcome back as we approach the end of the day. We're down to our last three sessions of day two. The day has flown by, to be honest. So, pivoting again from our last topic, we're looking at LMS engagement, a topic that, again, never really gets as much play as it perhaps deserves, given that we see all this content that we spend our lives creating through the lens of an LMS. Getting people engaged with it is rather important, you might think. So, I think across the day, you've already heard enough from me, so I'm going to get out of the way. The stage is yours. Thank you for presenting, and away you go.
Well, thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure to be with everyone. Perhaps from the title, you're scratching your head going, that's a lot of juxtaposition. What are we covering about LMS engagement? And I'm just so glad you're here. So yes, we can have both scarcity and abundance, community and competition. And ultimately, we're all seeking to have influence within our organizations. So we're going to spend the next half hour digging into techniques for LMS engagement. In the chat, would love to start with your what you love and what you hate about your LMS in honor of Valentine's Day. And I certainly do want to take the moment to wish you a happy Valentine's Day. Perhaps you've seen on my head, I have some ashes. It is also Ash Wednesday. And so if you are marking that occasion, I wish you a fruitful Lent. As you begin to share what comes to mind about your past LMS experience, I'll take just a moment to introduce myself as the chat populates. My name is DeCarolis, and I am a global talent management professional with a special focus and a special love for learning and leadership development. And this has brought me through the process of implementing and re-implementing a number of learning management systems. And so one of note, I did a 13 system RFP when we chose a system and implemented largely based around the platform's engagement features. In 10 months, we had about 2,200 learners complete 16,000 courses with 94% leader engagement. That led me into a little bit of LMS consulting and another implementation. And so while I recognize and am humbled by the wealth of knowledge in this room, I want to set the stage with here's where I'm coming from. And I welcome you throughout this session to put your insights and your case studies in the chat so that we can all learn from one another. There's so much wisdom to be shared. And thank you for the opportunity to share some of my trials and errors, tips and tricks, and pass those along to you for the good of your teams. So would love to see what we have in chat and see if my conversation hearts predicted what some of your love-hate relationships looked like. So let's see. Clunky UIs, 100% yes. Lack of entry points, ooh, yep. Lots of challenges. Oftentimes we get system challenges, right? But it's also those long-standing challenges that the business always says, technology agnostic. Oh, learning's a distraction. It's just flavor of the month. I don't have support I need to and the encouragement to go learn, or it's too time intensive to learn the system, too time intensive to learn. I don't have bandwidth. And so oftentimes we can come to dislike our LMS, and sometimes that's valid. I had one vendor quote me that there's 800 LMSs on the market. Well, no wonder. There are different reasons. They have different quality, different price points, different objectives. And so ideally, we pick the one that serves our needs. Oftentimes we're inheriting one. And so we've got some frenemy issues going on. And as we prepare to dive in, I do want to make one disclaimer. When I say LMS, tomato, why pay for an LMS that's boring? Why pay for an LXP that doesn't have a strong technical backend? Certainly a QMS, a quality management system, is separate. Worthy of note, though, is many times they have a training module that they build in, and learning teams have to appreciate and partner and work through the fact that their reputation isn't all their own. It's tied to how learners perceive the training they receive in a QMS, which is going to have a very different look and feel and very different engagement model than an LMS or an LXP. So today we're going to be looking at a blend of flavors with the aim of creating tasty results. So let's dive into scarcity. We do want to create moments of scarcity. whether that's featuring monthly content that lives on the home screen, it's not going away at the month's end. They'll just have to go looking for it. So surfacing things that make it barrier to entry easy, featuring limited time discussion boards and finding out what limited time means for you and your organization. Sometimes a month is too short, but 6 to 8 weeks feels right. And if you do a full quarter, it's stale for your most active users because it's been there too long. So sometimes that's trial and error and testing to see what works for your audience. We all have our good e-learning vendors who periodically have to retire their courses. And so doing a going, gone package as you're nearing a retirement can be really helpful to make sure people capture the insights before the course is lost. And then certainly considering when an invitation only or limited seats offering makes sense. When doing those, it's featuring the fact that there's live engagement. There are activities and opportunities for cross-functional social learning, ultimately backed up with encores, either for upon team request or replays that suit an asynchronous environment. So you're serving all needs, but you're creating buzz around the fact that it's invitation only. There's limited seats. You got to get in live because there's something special you'll see in the live broadcast. On the flip side of that, when we're thinking about scarcity in the portal itself, scarcity with content, that doesn't negate the fact that we're helping people see their abundant potential. Many ways we can do that. A few of my favorites include really thinking about end-to-end marketing, because while we are building content and building skill sets and things, we can't lose sight of we are also marketers. And it comes down to even things as simple as your LMS name. ABC Company University, ABC Learning isn't all that exciting. Whereas if you put a name such as Amplify as your system, then it starts to take on a personality of its own and it becomes a cultural touchstone. Because with a name like Amplify, you've got an action verb. It's short and sweet, so it's memorable. And you're able to create a sense of, well, I'm growing myself, I'm growing my team, I'm amplifying the organization. And it begins to pull at the heartstrings. It also has brand extension opportunities for some of your leadership development programs or your seasonal campaigns, all tied back into the personality that you've created for the system. We also need to make sure that we're underlining and underscoring the what's in it for me at every term. So whether that's contextualizing newsletters so that individuals understand, okay, yes, we're pushing this topic at this time because of this. And also ensuring that learning doesn't happen in a silo. How can your general HR communications and business communications have links to learning built in so that it truly is the way the culture's driven and it's the way we go about working, rather than learning's what you do when you're not working. It's over here in the silo. And the final piece for abundant potential is how are we making it easy when we lower the barrier to entry, centralize our content, individuals are able to focus their time in investing in themselves, investing in their teams and in growing their careers, rather than where's all this? Where do I need to hunt it down from? Distracting from their objective. I lied. There's a couple more here on abundance. We also want to encourage people to get offline where it makes sense. Take in the video, learn the framework, then go apply it. Because when they go to apply it and they can self-actualize the behavior and the skill, then they're able to realize the potential. Many of our technology tools also have ways of helping us set focus time or set time for learning. Whether that's, I've seen people get creative. Is it on their commute? Is it 15 minutes over lunch? And helping them see that even 15-minute micro learnings, which other speakers have shown how to do that super effectively, even 5 minutes can be valuable. And also looking at, is it, an hour on a Friday to start or close your Friday, making that a cultural norm. And finally, making sure that development is aligned to an individual development plan, also called a development action plan. I like that title because of the bias to action, but helping people see that it's not just I'm learning what I'm interested in, but there's purpose. There's a through line to helping their job today, benefiting their team today, and then growing the organization and their career for the future. When we think about our third element here, fostering a sense of community, we'll start to see reinforcement tools between these different colored hearts. And so when we think about community, there's what's trending content. When your learners know that what they are investing in is going to start triggering AI and algorithms to land content on the homepage, land content on a easily accessible page where my peers are learning this, oh, this must be really good. It's just like when we're on social media and we like something and it trends. The same value can be seen in learning. I had one course where it was on wellness, and one of our IT folks loved the fact that he had silly socks on. And so she was sharing it with everybody, which is fantastic when your system enables you to send direct links to content. And you can make that personal recommendation, because then it's human. It's not a system feeding you content. But in doing those personal shares, it started trending, I believe, on our homepage. And for that employee to know that they're one person that impacted the entire company because they had a passion around what they were learning, that's where, when you allow grassroots things to happen, you get more buy-in. It's also valuable to consider where badging and alumni networks come in. When individuals have all gone through a program and they share the same vocabulary, the same experience from the course, they're able to jump right back into some of those conversations without having to preface and summarize for the new folks. And so by creating opportunities for alumni to self-identify and say, I've got this badge, I've been through this, let's have this conversation, it forges those bonds outside of training. Many systems are also offering interportal chat features, which is something I would encourage good discernment around. Will it be a value add for your organization to help drive conversation and community? Or is it going to be just another system to check messages on? Oftentimes, sharing those direct links in a Slack or a Teams is equally or more effective. Another great thought is to seek feedback based on user activity level. So perhaps as you're sending out annual surveys of what are your needs and are you satisfied with the system and what more could we be doing, tier that based on your super users, your active base, and your inactive users, so that you can learn from your super users of how are they carving out the time, what value are they seeing, how have they bettered their performance because of this, so you can tell your success stories. But you can also share their wisdom down with your active base, hoping to convert them into super users. Your active users are also going to come and tell you, here's what I like, here's what my challenges are, here's the barriers I'd like you to remove. And from your non-active base, it's essentially asking the question, what would it take for you to log in the first time? What would it take? And having that candid response from them so that you can craft your strategy to build an even greater sense of community. When we think about competition, it's certainly an extension of community, because we want friendly competition. And many systems are implementing leaderboards. And it's not so much when we think about, oh, well, let's do, in the States, we're gearing up for March Madness. So it's not so much, let's do brackets and it's got to be short and sweet and there's going to be knockout rounds. No. It's about how can we get people to, out of a huge system of users, find people that they might actually know that might be a good motivator for them. And so perhaps structuring your leaderboards around regions, folks in their time zone that they might speak to more regularly, perhaps in their business vertical, because salespeople want to compete against salespeople, IT want to compete against IT, ultimately rolling up into a global learner of the quarter, resulting in a learner of the year. When we help people see familiar faces, then it mimics that water cooler of like, I did learning this week. Did you? Oh, I've got 3 more points than you did. Go take a course. And some of those friendly nudges can truly make a difference in engagement. And again, we see the topic here of badging. This, from a competitive sense, is almost like martial arts belts of, well, I've earned this much. Now I'm going to go to the next one. And sometimes it's about depth of skill and maturity of skill. And others, it becomes that, well, I'm a yellow belt. Well, I'm a green belt. And you're able to build up to that black belt. From competition, we also want to really be thoughtful around what we incentivize. As much as possible, we want to lean with intrinsic motivation, because that's where the individual's invested and they go from the journey of this is fun, to this helps me today, to this will help me tomorrow. So I'm going to keep coming back, where that has much greater potential for longevity than I'm doing this to get the gift card, win the sweatshirt, things like that. And it also helps to maximize learning and development budgets because you're able to spend those on less discretionary items. Consider the duration of your competition, similar to the March Madness example I mentioned, and certainly identify the objective. Sometimes it's simply to get people in there and having fun, because joy is a good part of learning. Once you normalize that joy phase, then make sure you're tying back to business objective and career development objectives. And finally, as we think about raising up influencers, this is one of, I think, the most undersung but powerful ways of driving engagement. And so think about who are the influencers in your organization. Sometimes it's C-suite. Sometimes it's that budding leader that everyone just really respects. Sometimes it's your champion of development that sits within the business unit. And so if you can ask them, what are you learning about right now? What did you have to learn to get to your current role? What skills do you think our organization should develop more of? And by getting those responses, you're able to either they'll pull out, here's my top 5 favorite from the LMS, or you can curate a selection to send back to them going, we'd like to put this as your playlist, please approve. You're able to say, come learn with the CEO, come learn with the head of sales. And because of their reputations and you're attaching learning onto their sphere of influence, you're drawing more and more people in. It's also crucial to share success stories. I loved when I heard of one of our business units who was doing regional meetings, and they had sent book summaries like a Blinkist or a Get abstract to their teams in advance. Prep this, come ready to discuss. And they didn't even tell me. And so I heard about it ahead of time, and I was like, do you guys need help? Can I do anything you need? How are you structuring it? And what they had done by themselves was beautiful. I didn't need to come and over-engineer anything. What I did ask of them is, can you share with me the success stories? Let's write a highlights article so that your bright spot, the bright spot in the business can be shared and echoed throughout, and others can follow your lead. I've also seen this on a micro level where people leaders said, every week when we go to our one-on-one, every other week when we have our one-on-one, I'm going to have taken a course, and you, my direct report, I want you to take a course, and we're going to spend time discussing what we learned. When the leader goes first, when the leader approves the time and the behavior and advocates for it, then they impact their entire team. So there's so much good that can be done through grassroots and through raising up fresh voices, because that's what resonates with your learner base. Top down is needed, and there's a lot of good we can do. Top down shouldn't just be a negative, but there's so much impact that can be had through cultivating influencers and shining a light on the bright spots that exist within the business that sometimes fly under the radar. And perhaps with all of these ideas, you're thinking, my goodness, I've got outdated technology. I can't do any of them. Boy, my candy is stale. I'm sorry to hear that. However, I would challenge you. This isn't all technology dependent. Where can you double down on marketing? Where can you create moments of excitement and joy and curiosity with people through the way you speak about learning as a whole, knowing that they'll go and interact with the system once you've stirred their minds and their hearts? You can also consider where utilizing a SharePoint or Yammer site would be helpful. Perhaps your LMS doesn't have discussion boards or social learning. Can you build that into a Yammer with some direct links to content? Similar with a SharePoint, can you do direct links so that they might skip over an interface that isn't as friendly? Can you take control to the point you're able and better your UI and UX? And finally, as needed, go low tech. That is a very valid and purposeful choice, so that ultimately we can be people-centric. We don't want to over-engineer. Book clubs and brown bag, let's watch a TED Talk over lunch and discuss it, are beautiful and meaningful ways to engage your teams. And then ultimately on the back end, you mark them complete in the LMS. And so when we think about engagement, what I would encourage is being really broad in our thought basis of engagement is more than just fun. It's more than just let's get more clicks so we can drive more usage and lower our cost per user to the business. So yay, we've got vanity metrics. Our industry isn't going to move forward if we're limited by those vanity metrics. And so yes, engagement is fun. It should bring joy. That's a win. It's a beginner's win that we then amplify and build on, because we want to focus on the objectives and the purpose behind the campaigns, behind the marketing, behind all of the engineering that we do to bring learning to our employee base. And so ultimately, when we engage people, we're building trust with them. They come to trust the system. And when they do, they're more likely to return to form a behavior of learning, conscious learning in the workplace. And when they start to realize I can trust what I'm going to see, I like to come back, I'm going to do it because I want to, with that intrinsic motivation, they then begin to connect the dots around their career development, around this will help me do my job better today. It's going to benefit my team in the short and long term. It's going to help my company perform better so we can serve our clients better. And it's going to help me advance my career and my life. And it just starts with a little bit of joy and guiding them along that journey to realize business value. Perhaps you've seen at the bottom of these slides a little unicorn. And ultimately, why I get so excited about engagement is because I believe all employees and all of your LMS users are unicorn talent. Perhaps you've heard this term in the context of talent acquisition. Learning can certainly swipe it for this purpose. In the TA space, it refers to a very hard to find candidate. You'll hear recruiters say, I'm looking for a purple squirrel or unicorn talent. I'm not overly familiar with squirrels, and I think unicorns are cool. So I've adopted this as my professional and HR point of view, because instead of saying I'm looking for the rare applicant, I say, what if we looked at all employees as unicorn talent? What if everyone was rare, valuable, worthy of respect, protection, and development? What if everyone was that unicorn? And what if we chose to care for them accordingly? I would encourage you to find what is your point of view in that. And if you'd like to come run, we'll get there in a moment. If you'd like to come run with the unicorns, please do. The world would be such a better place if we viewed everyone, revered them as being precious and wonderful and rare and worthy of our time and investment and our listening. So as we close today, what I would love to see in the chat and what I'd love for you to reflect on between this and the next session is, what do you take away from it? Can you commit to taking one action by the end of the month? What is on your conversation heart? If you could write that in the chat for us. And finally, I might not be able to give you a box of conversation hearts or chocolate this Valentine's Day, but if you'd like to run with the unicorns, you're most welcome to visit our website through this QR code and to download the free ebook and additional free learning resources. It's been a pleasure, and I welcome your questions.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for that. We'll give it a moment to see if people have got any questions, but do jump into the chat, everyone. Let us know what your action is that you're taking away. I think we do have a question that's come in. LMSs have limitations for interpreting data. Would you have to move that data elsewhere to get meaning on the objectives? What systems, processes have you found help drill down to business value?
Oh, that could be another 30 minutes. Cliff notes briefly. Yes, some LMSs are becoming more and more advanced in their data. Often that's an upsell. And so whether you choose to make that investment or you work with your IT team and try to do some Tableau or Power BI dashboards for yourself, those can be helpful. You just have to make sure that you're being really thoughtful in what you build and what you synthesize out of those to make sure that you're going beyond vanity metrics. At the same point, many LMSs are either having APIs into an HRIS, a Workday, an ADP, a Bamboo HR. There's many out there. So that you can pull skills data back into your source of record where you can cross-reference it with performance data and goal setting. Many HRISs are also, HR information systems are creating their own learning portals and maturing those systems so that they compete against standalone LMS providers that specialize in just that one thing. And in doing so, they create these career and skill hubs where goal setting, performance, engagement, development action plans, and learning are all together. And then they weave in gigs and rotational assignments. So there's more and more connectedness across HR technology, which is exciting. And they build AI and all those good things in. When I think about the individual, if I were in the role of a leader or if I were in the role of an employee, I would still go very retail about it. Technology is amazing. It's going to get there, both from a capability standpoint and then organizations having the budgets to implement. But when I think about caring for that unicorn, it's all about going local, brushing the mane yourself, right? And so for managers, I would say, how are you advocating for your employees, having those conversations, normalize talking about their career? And then also for the employee, knowing that you can and should be your own advocate in your skill and career development.
Brilliant. Any more questions? Now's the time to drop them into the chat or your takeaway actions. I think one of the things that struck me during your talk was the kind of the parallels of some of this and just that need to get out and really understand what it is that your users are wanting and not getting from the platform, which I think is so often missed. It sounds so simple to go, just talk to people, but we almost seem very hesitant to just go and do that very simple thing sometimes.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I'm glad you bring that up. I think it's so interesting that depending whether your learning organization rolls up into your HR team or not, there's this hesitation of, can I be candid with you? Do you really care? Are you really going to take action? And so whenever you seek feedback, you have to show that you're listening and you're willing to take those actions. But it's also, so it's breaking down those perceived barriers, getting to a point of candor. But also it's how are we often in enabling functions going out to what's called the Gemba, the place of work, and seeing what it is. Have you tried the OJT that you've built for that job? Have you rolled up your sleeves and done it? Have you seen the pain points so that you can truly appreciate the shoes of the person that you're supporting?
Absolutely brilliant. Well, we don't speak anything else in the chat, so I would like to say a massive thank you for this presentation. I think it's been super interesting, a really great way of looking at a platform that maybe we just try our best to ignore because we hate it for various reasons. And thank you to everyone watching for joining us, for getting involved in the chat, for your support of the event as a whole. Our next session does start in just 8 minutes or so. It's an AI session, new narratives, AI as a storytelling tool. So another pivot to another topic. I hope to see you all there. But in the meantime, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
iSpring is an e-learning software provider dedicated to streamlining e-learning worldwide. With a team of top industry specialists, they create tools that make e-learning both efficient and enjoyable. Their AI-powered course creation tool, iSpring Suite, and the iSpring Learn LMS are the top choices for thousands of instructional designers, L&D pros, and content developers. Crafted with the user workflow in mind, iSpring ensures a seamless experience for the creation of impactful learning content. Their website, iSpringSolutions.com, offers a treasure trove of e-learning resources perfect for those seeking to boost their L&D career or elevate their organization's e-learning practices. You can check out the iSpring Solutions website using the link in the description below.